to be a follower of Jesus? Perhaps not. But I think it is worth asking the question, what does it look like to be a disciple? I think of times when I've heard people talk about, the marks of discipleship. Or I remember seeing a t-shirt at a Christian concert one time that said, "They will know we are Christians by our t-shirts." So what does discipleship look like? Not to those around us, not how will they know that we are Christians, but what happens in our lives that confirms that we are indeed following Jesus. Well, I think that's what we hear about today in the gospel. What Jesus lays out for us in the gospel reading is a system of discipleship that does not function according to the usual worldly ways of doing things. It looks very different than what our culture and society would expect us to be doing. In verse 8, it says, "You received without payment, give without payment." What? This is perhaps the most radical thing in our reading today. You received without payment, give without payment. And then later he says, "Take no gold or silver, etc., for laborers deserve their food." You deserve your food. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to pay for it. You just get it. So being a disciple is not a transactional relationship, right? Following Jesus and doing these things that we are called to do is not a merit-based system. And what is the greatest offense possible that someone could do to you as a disciple? What is the thing about which Jesus says it's going to be worse for them than it was for Sodom and Gomorrah? And Sodom and Gomorrah did not end very well. But not showing hospitality is the worst thing that you can do. This is not the way the world works, right? I mean, I can think of several things that culturally are much more offensive than being inhospitable. But this is the way we are called to act as disciples. This is the way we're instructed to proclaim the good news that the kingdom of heaven has come near. We are called to proclaim this good news in some specific ways. By curing the sick, by raising the dead, by cleansing the lepers, and by casting out the demons. This list may sound a little dated, right? We don't really talk in most of these terms these days. Now, curing the sick. We do that pretty well these days with medical technology and advances and stuff. But not everybody gets cured in our society. And it is transactional. And it is merit-based. And you have to pay for it. You don't deserve it. So Jesus is calling us to cure the sick. So perhaps that means advocating for better access to quality health care. Perhaps that means imagining a society in which you receive without payment and you are given without payment. In which you deserve health care without having to earn it. And then I wonder, too, what other sickness are we called to cure? Other than literal physical coughs and colds and cancers and worse. I think this past week in particular, we were once again reminded through contemporary events and anniversaries that have been marked, of the sickness of gun violence in our culture. Of course, everybody, I'm sure, is aware that last Wednesday there was a shooting in Alexandria. One of our U.S. representatives, Representative Scalise, was shot. 2 police officers, David Bailey and Crystal Griner, were shot. And a lobbyist, Matt Micah, was shot. People don't always like lobbyists, but that's certainly not worth getting shot over. And that's what we heard about in the news, right? This terrible mass shooting. Atrocious. Horrific. Completely unacceptable. Including those 4 people, last week, 14 people were killed and 45 were injured just since last Sunday in mass shootings. Just mass shootings, which is 4 or more people being shot in the United States. That shooting in Alexandria is just the tip of the iceberg. It's just the littlest symptom of a bigger illness that our society has that we are being called to cure. So let's move on. Cure the sick. The next one is raise the dead. All right, we still have not gotten there, right? We are still not able to reanimate dead bodies. I think that might be a good thing. I've seen enough zombie films that I'm not really interested in trying to raise the dead. But who are the dead that we need to keep aware of, that we need to raise in our minds and in our memories and in our culture? Also, this past week in the news, we found that the killer of Philando Castile will not face a legal penalty for that death. Of course, Philando was killed 1 year ago in July, shot in his car just a day after another black man was shot in a parking lot. Not a great week, that week in July. 1 year ago, last Monday, 50 people died and 58 were wounded down in Orlando at the Pulse nightclub shooting. 2 years ago, yesterday, 9 of our siblings in Christ were shot and killed at Mother Emanuel in Charleston. Cynthia, Susie, Ethel, DePayne, Clementa, Tawanza, Daniel, Sharonda, and Myra met for Bible study and did not go home. Also, last Wednesday, it was a great week in the news. We heard about a horrific fire in London. People trapped, waiting to die, throwing their children out of windows. Throwing their children out of windows. A building where the tenants had complained about the conditions, raised concerns about safety. Evidently, nothing was done. These are the dead that we must raise. We are called to cleanse the lepers. Leprosy, as an actual illness, I think is pretty well under control. But we certainly have lepers in our own society. Untouchables. Unseeables. People we choose not to acknowledge. Or people we decide are perhaps not fully human. Undocumented immigrants. The LGBTQ community, as we recognize Pride Month, I would say we are doing better for the lesbians and the gays of the LGBTQ, but particularly for our trans siblings. As a society, we still view them as lepers, and it is costing them their lives. And then, of course, we have the less flashy headline sort of leprosy: mental illness, disability, addiction. And then finally, casting out demons. This sounds exciting. But I don't think it's like The Exorcist. I certainly hope it's not. But our society certainly has some demons, right? Our society has, maybe you could say, some skeletons in our closet that need to be shown the light of day and cast out of there. The demon of discrimination and racism that pushes back against, and at the same time makes necessary the cry that Black Lives Matter. Tomorrow is Juneteenth. It is a big deal. Do any of you know what Juneteenth is? Juneteenth is the day that slaves in Texas were finally free. It is a big deal. But it is a demon that we need to cast out, because we, as the white church, tend to not think too much about our brothers and sisters and their history. Because we were, in ways, complicit in slavery. We were, in ways, benefiting from that system. And that is a demon that we carry around with us. That is a skeleton that we carry in our closet, and it's taking up space that could be filled with some really beautiful garments. And we need to get rid of it. We need to acknowledge it. So this is what it looks like to be a disciple. These are the things we are called to do as disciples: cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse lepers, and cast out demons. Jesus never said it would be easy. Jesus never said it would be warm and fuzzy all the time. But Jesus said that this is what we are called to do. And as difficult as these things are going to be and have been for us to do, and as uncomfortable as we will be, and even I'm sure right now feel thinking about these things, what is going to happen when we go out and boldly proclaim that the kingdom of heaven has come near? What is going to happen when we walk outside this safe place into the world and start doing these things? What is going to happen? How will the world react when we live into our call to be disciples? Well, what does Jesus say? They will hand you over to councils and flog you in their synagogues, and you will be dragged before governors and kings because of me. Cool. Brother will betray brother to death, and a father his child, and children will rise against parents and have them put to death. And you will be hated by all because of my name. Okay. Can we go back to the t-shirt shop version of discipleship? Can we just wear a shirt that says they will know we are Christians by our t-shirts? Because this does not sound like fun, right? We'll get dragged before the authorities. The status quo will push against the work of the kingdom. And we will be very uncomfortable and possibly in danger. And then on top of all of that, Jesus says, don't even worry. Don't worry about what you're going to say. Don't worry about your defense. You just go out there and do it. When the time comes, you'll have the words. I have occasionally toyed with the idea of testing that out with preaching. But I'm not sure how that will go. I even feel nervous about that, and this is like my job. But I think we need to remember that we have been given the words. We have been given the defense that we will need at the time. Ever since you were little, ever since the first time you stepped foot in a church, ever since First Communion class and Sunday school and Bible school and confirmation and Bible study and every other thing and worship on Sundays, we are being given the words to defend ourselves. We are being given what we need to go out into the world. And we are being given the knowledge that we need, the information, and the promises to stand up when people say, "What is your problem? Why are you doing this? This is messing with my profit margin. You're making me feel like maybe what I'm doing isn't right. You used to be so nice, and now you just make trouble all the time. I thought Christians were supposed to make people feel good. Aren't you supposed to be nice?" We have the answers for when we get pushed back. In our first reading, God gives the law to the people. We've got our instructions right there. You shall have no other gods before me. Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Do not lie. Do not kill. Do not covet. Honor your elders. All of these things. That's what we're doing. When Jesus tells us later on in Matthew, this kingdom of heaven that's coming near, that is a kingdom where when you fed the hungry, when you clothed the naked, when you visited the prisoner, you were visiting Jesus. You were visiting the Lord of that kingdom. We know everything we need to know. And we've been given this charge, this call, this vocation. And it's not necessarily going to be a fun one. Sorry. It's not necessarily going to be an easy one. It's definitely not, actually, not at all going to be easy. And it's not going to help us win friends and influence people. It's not going to make us worldly, successful folks. It's not going to amass a huge fortune and get us jets and fancy cars. That's not what it is to be a disciple. What it is to be a disciple is to look at a week like the week our world has had, with the current events and the anniversaries. To look at that week and to hear Jesus calling us to cure the sick, to cleanse the lepers, to cast out demons, and the fourth one, which I just forgot, to raise the dead. Is to look at that week, hear that call, and realize we have job security, right? We've got a lot of work to do, and God has called us to this work, and God has equipped us for it. And frankly, we don't have anything better to do with our time. Not a single thing more important. And do you know why? Because the one thing that matters to us as individuals has already been done for us. Right? Because in baptism, we have been buried and raised again with Jesus. Because when we were still sinners, Christ died for our sins. We are saved people. We are holy people. We are people of that kingdom. So with our salvation, with our resurrection, with our eternal life secured for us already, we have so much free time on our hands. And so much work that we don't have to do it all for ourselves. That we can spend all that time and all that work going out and being disciples and doing these difficult tasks that Jesus calls us to do. And then every week, as we do these things, as we hear these news stories, as we feel God's call in our lives, and we engage in this challenging work and maybe encounter pushback and maybe encounter strife, every week comes a Sunday. Every week we come back together again. We do not do this work alone. Because the other thing that happened at baptism, which I know you've all heard me say before, is we became brothers and sisters and siblings. Is that we became one body. And we are called to do this work. Not I am called to do this work. You are called to do this work. But we are called to do this work. So no matter what gets thrown at us out there, we come back together each week. And we hear again the words we need. We receive again the food we need. And we engage again in the community that we need so that we might go out and share the good news that the kingdom of heaven has come near. It's come near in your actions, and my actions, and our actions as the body of Christ in this world. Amen.
Amen.